But the invasions of Africa, this is what began to change things. Let me tell you just quickly, run through these. The Hyksos, who came in and were kicked out around 1500 BCE. The Assyrians who came in. The Persians who came in. The Greeks under Alexander who came in around 333. The Romans who defeated the Greeks. You remember when Cleopatra was killed, by the Romans. So 30, that was around 30 BC when Cleopatra was killed. So the Romans took over then and run Egypt as a colony from Rome for almost 400 or 500 years until the African people, the original people in Egypt, asked, this is what we did. We asked the Arabians to come over to Africa and help us defeat the Romans.
In his lecture on the history of Egypt's invasions, Dr. Molefi Kete Asante emphasizes that Egypt was founded by Black Africans who created one of the most advanced civilizations in world history. These African people were responsible for developing Egypt's language, philosophy, sciences, arts, and architectural wonders that still amaze the world today. Asante stresses the importance of recognizing the African roots of ancient Egypt, which many historical narratives have attempted to erase or minimize. From its beginning, Egypt stood as a symbol of African excellence and innovation. However, Egypt's prominence and wealth made it a target for invasions. One of the earliest invaders were the Hyksos, who entered during the Second Intermediate Period and disrupted native rule. Later came the Assyrians and then the Persians, both of whom sought to dominate Egypt's land and resources. Each wave of conquest disrupted African sovereignty and imposed foreign rule over the land that had once been a thriving African kingdom. Despite this, the spirit of the native people endured.
That's the history people don't realize, right? So you think, how did the Arabs get there? They got there in 639, this era, AD. 600, so they've been there a long time, but 639 AD. They came over because the Romans had this occupation of Egypt. And the idea that the Africans had was if we could organize with the Arabs to throw off the Romans, we could then have our independence. So what did they do? Under the authority of the Arab general. His name was General E.L.L. A.S. You can look him up, General L. Oz. He was the one who had defeated Jerusalem. And when he had defeated Jerusalem, the Africans said, well, come on down here, and since you warriors, come on down here with your Islamic warriors and let's throw out the Romans. They threw out the Romans and then decided that they wouldn't go home. They said, this is a good place. They got all kinds of fruits and vegetables along the Nile River. People got cattle and stuff. It's not desert if you go to Egypt and you're flying in the air, you look down, Egypt is a strip of green along both sides of the Nile River. And on the other side is deserts on both sides. So it's like, wow, here's a country you can go for hundreds of miles and it's just fertile, green. They got every plant and fruit you can think of, all the animals you can think of in this green valley, you see. So they said, why should we leave here? So in 641, the Arabs built a fortress and they named it Cairo. Cairo was the first city built. The Arabs didn't build the cities of ancient Egypt. They didn't build Waset. They didn't set up the pyramids. They didn't build the temples of Egypt. They built Cairo. And they made Cairo the citadel and the fortress for their penetration throughout Egypt into other regions, taking over the Africans' land. That's how this happened. So that's why I have here for you the invasions after the Romans. The Arabs came, but the Arabs, when they came, because they were Muslim, they also had to submit to the Ottoman Turks, because the Turks came while the Arabs were in Egypt. The Turks came and took the power from the Arabs, and then extended their power even into Sudan. I'm pretty sure they were close to Sudan, to Darfur. They established all kinds of places throughout Africa, you see. And then, of course, the Turks, they were attacked by the Western Europeans, the French and the British. And most people don't realize this, that after the World War, the first international European war, you had the destruction of the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire was taken over by the French and the British. And the French also invaded, Napoleon invaded Egypt in 1799. And he didn't stay long because the British took over from him. But while he invaded, his soldiers found the Rosetta Stone. That's the stone that had the 3 different writings, languages on them that allowed people to decipher the ancient texts, you see. But the point that I'm making here is that the Ottomans lost their whole empire after World War I. And when they lost their empire, 2 Europeans divided up their empire. Sykes, S-Y-K-E-S, and Picot, P-I-C-O-T. Picot, Sykes and Picot. We always talk about the Berlin Conference, 1884 and 85. That's good, because that's what divided up Africa. But what divided up the Ottoman Empire, that made Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Syria, etc., was a Sykes-Picot agreement between the French and the British, you see. So Egypt was essentially left alone until, of course, the British, as I said, the British were in charge, and they were in charge of a population that had been mixed with Turks and Greeks and all the other Persians, all the other people who had invaded Greece. So what we see, and then of course, when the overthrow of the king that had been set up by the British happened, the person who took over was Nasser. General Nasser, a military man who was Arab, became the leader of Egypt. But Egypt in antiquity was not an Arab country. Egypt in antiquity, meaning in the most ancient times, was black. And the farther back you go, the blacker Egypt gets. So you're talking. So I'm gonna show you some images. But I want to let you know this, because you got this. If you know this, you understand that Imhotep was not an Arab. Hatshepsut was not an Arab. Ramses II was not an Arab. King Tutankhamun was not an Arab. They were black people. They were black-skinned people. So when you understand that, you understand that both ancient Egyptians and Nubians were the same people, same complexion, same skin people. The integration of the Arab population into Egypt was what I call a subterfuge host.
The lecture highlights a pivotal moment in Egyptian history when Africans, desperate to expel the Romans, sought help from the Arabs. This alliance proved to be a fatal mistake. General El-Az led the Arabs in helping the Africans defeat the Roman occupiers, but rather than restoring Egypt to its original people, the Arabs seized control for themselves. In 641 AD, they built Cairo, making a permanent Arab presence. Dr. Asante is clear in stating that although the Arabs remained in Egypt, they cannot claim credit for the legacy of Egypt's greatness. Its monuments, knowledge systems, and institutions predate Arab influence. After Arab rule, Egypt fell under the control of the Ottoman Turks. The Arabs, though Muslims, were compelled to submit to the Turks, who were seen as a superior Islamic power at the time. The Ottoman rule marked yet another period of foreign occupation. As the empire declined, Egypt became entangled in European imperial struggles. Napoleon and the French invaded in 1799, only to be overtaken by the British, who saw Egypt as a vital strategic prize, especially with the opening of the Suez Canal. Dr. Asante concludes by reaffirming Egypt's position as the prize of the world. Its fertile land, rich natural resources, the cultural significance have made it a constant target for conquest. Despite the many invasions and foreign occupations, the foundational truth remains. Egypt was created by Black Africans, and its greatness is a testament to their genius. Any understanding of Egypt that does not center on its African origins is both inaccurate and misleading.